I spent way longer working on this than I wanted to, thought I would. Designing it wasn't that big a deal, and I specifically designed it with flats on both sides here instead of getting fancier rounding it, because I'm going to cut the piece like this, and then when it comes out I'm just going to take and put those two sides into the same serrated jaws, and that should hold great enough, you know, to be able to take the top off and finish the second side and that stuff, because I don't want to make soft jaws for it, anything like that. I can't clamp it on the round, blah blah blah. So and this is the piece. This is just a total crap piece that's been laying around here for quite a while. It's got a center bore. I will cut a little air here, but it allows me to plunge in instead of having to ramp down in. And part of the reason why I'm picking this piece of it, it was a bigger piece I cut off, is because it's got two threads here, and they're the same distance from the center. So I'm only going to be able to use one because the other side is going to be the clamp. And but that will be the drive dog. It will clamp onto the hub, so I don't need a bolt sticking out this side, but I do need one sticking out this side to engage with one of the jaws on the chuck. And at first I was going to have this side down and try to skim this off, but there's a lot of crap there. But the edges are even, same height. So I'm going to put that down, take a light skim cut off this side, and then when I cut the carrier off the back side, it'll get rid of all that ugliness. Basically, I'm going to set my Z at the bottom here, so right on top of the lip of the jaw there. I can go ahead and get the X off the side here and then just flush the material, but Z is the one I need to get now with the stock out of the way. Once I put the stock in, I can do X and Y off of it. In fact, I want to do Y off of the stock once it's in, because it will sink in. What is that? I measured it once before, roughly 30 thousandths, 20, 30 thousandths maybe. Or I want to, there's not machined, but extruded edges here. This is bandsaw cut here. So I want to do clamp on the nicer edges. Now let's torque it. Well, actually, as long as I'm here. So what I'm going to show here is not necessarily exactly how much. It's 0.01 millimeter per division, but I'm going to back up until it goes to 0. Okay. Now, when I torque this down, it'll give you an idea just how much bite there is there. So I always make a point to compensate for that. Now that I've shown you how much it pushes the stock into the jaws, I need to go ahead and re-zero that so that my y-axis is correct. Now this next tool is my new half-inch. Anyway, it's the shorter of the two I got. It's a half-inch Eagle Claw by Carbide Cutting Tools. So I may not have the speeds and feeds dialed in perfectly on this, but I wanted to give it a try. I'm going to definitely be using the 1/4-inch one later. I would prefer to have a 3/8 in here, but they didn't have the 3/8 in stock at the time I bought these. And I have since bought the long ones because I may use those on the truck brackets because of the deep reach. Ooh, that's quiet. Like butter. That doesn't seem right. Shouldn't have gone down in the middle there. I guess I'll go figure that out. Yeah, sure enough. At one point I saw it out here, but then you change a couple things, you go back in, you tell it to regenerate because you had to change something on the setup. Well, then when it regenerated, I missed that it was plunging right down into the middle. I got lucky the fact that there was a hole there already. That's why it went down in and didn't just crash and burn. So I'm going to, I'm not going to cut air for all that previous stuff. I will repost the code with just the last two tools. But let's go in here and tell it entry position. Let's at least get it on the right plane. Nope. Still went down in the center. Why? I mean, I could let it run because it'll go back down in that hole and cut one side and then cut the other. Oh, because it's an adaptive clearing. I've been fighting with it because it kept going right down in the middle there. Just in the start of the thing. Luckily there was a hole there, or it would have been an issue. I just didn't want it to load up chips trying to clear from the center out when I should be able to get it to just run from one direction. And man, I kept changing stuff, and what it ended up being is the minimum cutting radius right here. I had it at 10 thou. I took it down to 5 thou, boom. Now it'll go to where my entry point is. And I put it on the inside just because if it's going to throw chips, it's going to throw it into this hole here for the most part, instead of on the outside where it's going to constantly, you know, throw it at me more or less. So now it's going down there. It'll jump up and down a couple of times for whatever reason, but it should be good to go. It should come down, it should run the thing. Well, let's see here. Says it'll take a minute 21. Good enough for me. Something else I learned quite a while ago. When you want to do this and you want to start in the middle, you don't select the ones you want and then tell it to post the code. Okay. I tell it to suppress the tool paths that I want to skip because they're already done. Okay, and then let it finish generating all the code here. Okay, now you select the whole thing, because I had issues before where it didn't register the stock correctly if I did it the other way. By selecting that and only having those three toolpaths available, that did the trick. So let's see here. Let's go ahead and simulate it real quick. Let's turn off the sketch. We'll even turn off the model. And that's because it didn't clear out the stuff that's already been cleared. So now it'll look a little aggressive there because it'll run the contour pass. And I would have run the contour with the 1/2 inch, but I couldn't get in here, and I didn't feel like running just that with the 1/4 inch, so I decided to just run it all. Okay, I like that. We'll go ahead and turn the model back on. I don't need the sketches. Let's post the code. Normally when I do that, I'll put an A in front of the name, so that way it'll differentiate, and then I can go back and just delete the A version. Two thou per tooth with a 40 thou step over. Some of those chips, I should have Just try to get a little closer there. Wanted to blow them out of there so it didn't crash when it did the contour pass around there. Okay, well, hopefully this will do the trick, but this is what I was talking about. This is the reason why I made this. I originally had it just kind of round, a bump there, and I could have rounded these off more, but I knew that I was going to want a flat area, and I'll just stick it in the middle of the vise. Okay, and I'm pushing it up against there, getting it flat. Then I'll tap it in there. And yes, it's definitely going to leave some marks. But as I said before, ooh, that's plenty of bite. Because it's such a small surface area, you could watch the teeth just go right into the aluminum. There's no way that's moving. Okay, so I got to find center here, and I still leave Z the same because it's the same height on the jaws. I picked the same Z reference. Anyway, I want to stay fairly close to the top here because and make sure there's no bolt hole there or on the side, because down below, you know, there's a gap here. So I could go off to the side. It'd be close enough, but as long as I stay up at the top edge there, I'll be okay. In doing the contour pass, okay, because it's a thin layer there. It's 1/8 of an inch of material left, but I just have a full-size stock block there because it just doesn't matter. Rather than trying to go in and create second op stock, that kind of thing. Anyway, I couldn't do a stock to leave a 30,000 because it wouldn't go down through the slot there like I wanted it to. So I dropped it back down to 20. Still buys me a little extra room. The face mill's not going to notice it, and having that overhang off the edge isn't going to matter. And then I did do I projected the inside circle and these, and then I went in and put an inch-long extension. Let's just turn the sketch on. And so there's the first one, and then I realized that it wasn't out far enough to catch those ears, so I did an offset of 300 thousandths, and that pushed it out enough. And so then this will be done with a trace as opposed to a face, because a face is going to go all the way back and forth. There's really no time savings. And it took me longer to program this than a face, but I just kind of like doing it this way. I could have went back, I probably should have, went back and did that on the other side. Yeah, that would have been easy. Once I generated this for one side, you just go through, you select that when you do the other side, but you're telling it this surface, blah, blah, blah. And then chamfer. Let's test it real quick. See, it's just going to follow around and cut all the excess off of the carrier. And then I have this set for multiple depths, just because there's about 100 thou carrier left. So I'm just going to step it down a couple times instead of trying to push it. Post it. I'm running that 200 thou below so that it's just not on the end of the cutter, okay? That way it's more in the middle of the body. I could have gone further, but So as expected, a little bit of chatter out here because, you know, that thing was floating, you know, pivoting here, which is part of the reason for the lighter cut and everything. Considering it's a tool, I'm perfectly pleased with it. So I'll put it in the manual mill and go ahead and drill the hole in that stuff and tap it to put a screw in there so that I can clamp that down. So, but there's that side. There's the other side. I think on the drill press I'll go hit these a little bit with the chamfer tool that's in there, the countersink, whatever. See a little deformation there? It's going to focus from where that pushed it down. Yeah, along there too. Hey, but you know, I'm more than happy to give up that, considering it went so much faster. I didn't have to make soft jaws, anything like that. Didn't have to try to bolt it down to a table, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, I'm quite happy with that. And if I don't care for the shiny finish, I can always just throw it in the glass bead cabinet and do that. But, you know, hopefully I can get enough squeeze out of that. Otherwise, I'll be putting it back in and doing some reliefs. I don't know. Well, at first it was like, oh, sweet. But it's not going down where I wanted it. And I had meant to put a bigger chamfer on both sides so I could put it on either way, and then that way it would handle. I guess there's no real radius there to worry about. Oh, that's pretty close. Heck, yeah, I'll put it back in there the same way I just had it, and I'll open that center hole up just a little bit. And if I can't find a bolt, then I'm just going to re-drill that out and do like a 3/8 bolt or something like that, because I've got more size options lengthwise and stuff like that. So